You're listening to Sox in the Basement, a production of the Broadcast Basement Limited, where every show is 30 minutes of good and comes from a basement bar on the south side of Chicago. Pull up a stool, pour a cold one, and join us right now for Sox in the Basement. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found, and always at soxinthebasement.com. One more episode with no video on YouTube. I apologize for that, but I'm back. I'm back from vacation.
You are here.
You know, when you go away and you run the whole show, like not just this show, you did a great job. You and James Fox killed it for a couple days. I really appreciate it, the last couple shows. And it's nice to hear from him, one, because, you know, he had a suggestion as to who should be up here in the rotation when Martin Perez goes down. And he talked a lot about why Tim Elko should be up here instead of Andrew Vaughn, which, you know, I feel like a broken record, but I opened up their stats this morning, Ed, because I took a break from the White Sox while I was on vacation. I opened up their stats this morning. I'm like, nothing's changed. The guys who sucked before I left still suck, and the guys that I thought should be playing at the major league level were brought up and are performing. Imagine that. So we'll get into that today. But when you get back and you run the whole network, oh my God, there's a lot of emails. There's like so many things I have to deal with.
Yeah, it's the problem being a small business owner when it's primarily just you.
It's nuts. I mean, the only show that anybody can take any pressure off me is you. You take pressure off me with Sox in the Basement, and Fox filling in. You guys took an enormous amount of pressure off me. All the rest of them, they don't run if I'm not here. So there was so much that was on my plate, and I was like, well, we can't do video because I only have so much time today on a Friday. I got to get certain things done before the week ends, and then I'll regroup this weekend, and everything goes back to normal starting on Monday morning. So we do have a show, though, and I do want to talk about these White Sox, but I want to start off with just a little nugget, just a little tidbit, just a little story from the vacation, and it has to do with baseball.
So it's relevant.
Yeah, it's relevant. Sunday, I'm sitting on the couch with this torn calf. If you heard a few episodes ago, I tore my calf, so it's not doing well yet. It's better, but it's still a real problem. So Sunday night, you know, I'm resting it. There's all kinds of family in this house. My dad rented his house on Sanibel Island off the coast of Fort Myers. One of the places that tried to hire me in radio. They brought me out there, and the female program director drove me to Hooters and the beach all day long to try to get me to come to Fort Myers. They were like, if we show him girls, he'll take less money. And I didn't take the job because I was like, how will I live here? Like I would have to live like in a box based upon what you're offering me. So I didn't go. But now I return to Fort Myers. I go to Sanibel Island. We're on the island, and my dad's got this house that he rented. Beautiful house. My sister's there with her kids. I'm there with my kids. My mom and dad are there. My brother-in-law is there. And then my Uncle Jim, who is a huge White Sox fan, he's there. He's got his whole family there as well. So and they've got their kids. So there's so many people in this house. Those that weren't staying in the house were in the house during the day. It was a madhouse. And so I'm watching Sunday Night Baseball, and here come the old-time White Sox fans into the room. First, my dad walks in, sits down. How you doing? Good. What are you watching? Looks like Astros Padres right here. Oh, okay. And then my cousin's husband comes in, sits down, and he's like, look at this guy right here, this Tatis. And then my brother-in-law goes, that was one of the worst White Sox trades ever. And in comes my uncle. He comes in, he sits down, and they're watching the game. And everybody's sitting there, and we're all watching this baseball game. And the comments that were heard struck me as so funny, I wanted to remember them for the show. Comments like, wow, is this what real baseball looks like? Did you see that guy hit the cutoff, man? Man, that guy popped up right after he made that catch and threw it right to first base. Like, the awe and astonishment of White Sox fans watching a non-White Sox game and understanding that a crowd can be excited, that people can be into a game and it doesn't have to just be the playoffs, that the announcers are good.
Right.
Right? And it's not a propaganda machine paid for by a billionaire that's mad that his fan base hates him and wants him to either die or sell, right? So he hired a guy who never did baseball before to sit in there and learn the game. And it doesn't matter if he knows everything that's going on as long as he talks good about Jerry. So every aspect of the game, everybody's astounded. Like the people that just watch White Sox games, and we couldn't get one that night, thank God. We watched a real baseball game between the Padres and the Astros. We watched guys have big moments. We watched good pitching. We watched situational hitting. And everybody just comments like, wow, I haven't seen somebody turn a play like that in the infield in years.
Well, and they haven't.
Right. Those are the comments. Guys who are watching baseball, fans, White Sox fans watching baseball, watching a completely different team, watching two teams that are talented play the game. It is so different than the garbage that you see day in and day out with the Chicago White Sox and the games that they play. In fact, I think opposing teams come in and almost play down because they don't have to play at their highest level against the worst team in baseball, probably 2 years in a row, I would think it's going to be now, the way that they're playing. And there are bright spots. What did I say about Chase Mydroth? Get this guy up here. He was doing really well, then he got injured. I remember when I yelled that to my dad at the pool. I was like, Dad, what's the most White Sox thing that could happen today? Chase Mydroth could be on the IL? Exactly.
And lo, it came to pass. And he got hurt doing a drill, too.
Right,
That's
of
what
course.
annoys me.
Of course.
Yeah, it wasn't like he got hit on the hand by a pitch. Wasn't like, he was turning a fantastic double play or something like that. No, they were doing a swinging drill and he gets hurt, which means that he was hurt by the coaches.
It's the most White Sox thing there is. Another White Sox thing is Martin Perez basically saying, oh, my elbow hurts. Huh. Well, what are we going to do about it? Well, I'm not doing Tommy John. Well, are we going to do anything that's going to get you back this year? I'm just going to go home.
Yeah.
So just don't pick up my option. Yeah. I mean, why would you? If you're Martin Perez, honest to goodness, I don't know if there was a way for him to get back this year, right? I don't know.
It's hard to say with an elbow,
Right, it's hard to say. But, man, you would just be like, what is the point? No. I'm going to talk to my doctors about long-term care and whether or not I'm going to pitch in 2026. I'm not worried about what's happening on this team. But then here we go. Edgar Quero comes up, and he is good.
He's really good.
How much was I yelling? Why isn't this guy up here? What was the point of bringing Omar Narvaez up? What was the point of it? Right?
In fact, you don't even need to call the guy by the right name.
I didn't say
so inconsequential.
He's so inconsequential. I don't care. I mean, he was up for like 3. If you look at the transactions, like he's up and they have 3 catchers for like a couple of days. Like they weren't sure if Quero was going to be good. Like they might bring him up for a couple of days and he's bad and we'll send him down. Come on. Where's your talent evaluation? 8 for 24 as we sit here right now over his first 8 games, hitting .333 with an .846 OPS. Remember when I was talking about how that on-base percentage was similar to Chase Mydroth's when he was down in AAA? So why isn't he up here too? Because he's obviously seeing pitches really well. .429 currently.
Right.
.429.
Right. And putting the bat on the ball in situations where there's guys available to score. I mean, a couple of RBIs he has. One is a pinch hit, which is impressive. In fact, he's called out by Will Venable as handling that situation exceptionally well because it's a difficult situation. And, the other one, it's just a tapper to first, but it gets a run home. And how often have we seen the White Sox strike out in that situation or pop up or do something that doesn't allow for that run to score? And here's Edgar Quero understanding the assignment, getting a guy home because he's making contact. He's doing what he can to put the bat on the ball. He is actually what a professional baseball player looks like, to the point where you kind of wonder how long Chris Getz is going to keep him here because he may be too good for our world.
Please don't say that. My dad said that, and I was like, Dad, that's a stupid comment. My dad was like, well, he's too good. We're going to have to trade him for prospects. I'm like, we've got 6 years of control. Why would we trade him? And then you say it. Stop saying these things. Stop it. This is like when I took my 9-year-old on the plane, and he sat on the plane, and he talked about, it would be really bad if the engine exploded and we all died out loud while people were sitting around him. Like my older kids, the teenagers are like, Nick, stop saying that stuff on the plane. He's like, what, fiery death? Like he just blurts things out on an airline. You don't want to sit next to this kid on a plane, folks. You don't want to sit next to him. He will look right at you and start telling you about air disasters. He's the worst.
Don't take any offense to this. I'm not sure I want to sit in the same room with him after that. But
he's 9 years old. He talks about air disasters. And I feel the same way when you talk about, well, we can't keep Edgar Quero. Stop it. We have him right now.
No, what they should do, and what he's shown, and this is where I was reading an article in SI. They were talking about, asking his teammates about him, right? And so Matt Theis is talking about how, Edgar Quero has come in and really busted his ass to try and learn the pitchers and the scouting reports and everything. So he's ready behind the plate, and he's really working hard on that. And everyone's talking about the fact that he's just come up and he's calm and he's confident and the game's not too fast for him. And it's one of those where, even the only kind of wet blanket was Brandon Iser. I don't know why we're talking to him, but he kind of said that there's still a chance that the league could, figure out eventually what his strengths and weaknesses are. But that's true of every prospect that comes up. So I'm not really worried about that, because if Edgar Quero is really as professional as he's being made out to be, if he's really this dedicated to his craft, then he's going to make adjustments back. He's that kind of a guy. And what I really think is interesting is, what do you do with Kyle Teal and what do you do with Corey Lee? Because I don't see how Edgar Quero isn't Wally Pipping some of these guys out of this position when he really hasn't done anything except show you that he's ready.
Yeah.
You know?
I want to get into that for sure. Sox in the Basement listeners, switch to a new age of life. Keep mom and dad, grandma and grandpa out of assisted living with Hyatt Home Medical Equipment. Make it so they can get around on their own and live independently with stair lifts, ramps, grab bars, lift chairs, and even bathroom remodeling. All things that I could use right now with a torn calf muscle. Luckily, this isn't permanent. But all things I could use right now. They work with your insurance. They have 0% financing for qualified individuals. Hyatt is going to help you out with your CPAP machines. If you're unhappy with your vendor, switch now. Get supplies directly mailed to you. The latest and greatest in continuous glucose monitors. Hyatt Home Medical Equipment, located on the Southwest Side. Learn all about them at hhme.com. Edgar Quero strikes me early on, and I'm always afraid of the early on assessments because in a month he could be hitting 140. But early on, he strikes me as the future general behind the plate. Like the possibility. It depends on your generation or as a White Sox fan. But Carlton Fisk was a general behind the plate.
Right.
Carlton Fisk, in the middle of a game, will call a mound visit because he wanted to tell the third baseman to get his head out of his ass. He was in charge of everybody. You didn't run something out. He yelled at you for it. That's what he did. And Edgar Quero kind of carries himself. I mean, I'm just picking it up a little bit in the interviews. Kind of carries himself a little bit like once he's got his handle on all the pitchers and the players and he's established himself, this could be a real leader. Catchers, if you get a catcher who can hit and can run his staff and has leadership capabilities, you've got something that most teams in Major League Baseball don't have. And he could be that. I don't know if he's going to be, but he could be that. And that would be amazing because this team really needs that guy. You know, it's funny. Catchers have a tendency to be vocal. Corey Lee last year, remember, got himself in some trouble by saying to Pedro Grifol, probably not a very good manager, in so many words. He didn't say it like that. But I mean, like, he had no problem kind of throwing shade. And everybody's like, what's this rookie throwing shade for? He's a catcher. And he's good.
And he's right.
Yeah, and he's right. So imagine get a guy like Quero up there. You're right. Now Teal comes along. You got two really talented guys. I don't care if they're both in the lineup every day, and to save their knees, one is at first and one is at catcher. I'm fine with that. It's a great problem to have. That'd be amazing to have. So I'm not going to worry about Kyle Teal because I'm going to just enjoy Edgar Quero being here. I think Corey Lee has to be a little nervous. Just a little bit. I mean, I think Corey Lee's a professional catcher, but I don't know if he's that level that I just described, right? Like, I don't think he's got that as his ceiling. But I mean, I could see all three of them on my roster if you sat there and said, okay, Lee's the backup catcher, and we're making one of these guys into a different position. I mean, that's what they're going to have to do. Because you know where they're not going to get an answer from? They're not going to get an answer from Andrew Vaughn. There's no answer over there.
No.
I left on vacation. I came back. Nothing's changed. I know he hit a home run. I'm sure they gushed over his home run. I'm sure White Sox state media couldn't wait to tell you how he got a home run over the last week. And he's got 3 of them now on the season. He's hitting 165. His on-base percentage is 200 with a 497 OPS standing at first base. And you gave him $6 million in arbitration. This guy's done. He is what he is. Just like Miguel Vargas is what he is. They both need to be moved along. Andrew Vaughn standing out there still upsets my delicate sensibilities. I feel like Will Venable is trying to move him out of the 4 spot because he's put Quero in there twice now. He's already put Quero in there a couple of times and bumped Vaughn down, but then Vaughn's back in the 4 spot the next day.
Yeah, the lineups are a little inconsistent.
You know Venable knows who's good.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think there's any question that, you know, if Brandon Drury, who is, you know, a little bit closer than I think we all assumed to coming back to the Major League roster, if he's up here and he's performing. I think Will Venable's leaning on him. I think Will Venable looks at Edgar Quero and goes, I got to get this guy in the lineup. There's a reason why Brooks Baldwin is playing both the outfield and the infield and moves around so frequently. And frankly, I think there's a reason why he's shoehorning Bobby Dahlbeck into the lineup, because he wants to see if he's got something there with a guy who can provide power.
But if he's good, he's a first baseman, third baseman. He shouldn't be standing at shortstop. Like, that's the thing.
He's played all of. I had to look it up because I wasn't sure if he'd ever played shortstop before. He played 16 games in the minors, and he's played 6 games in the majors to this point, and a couple of them are now with the White Sox. Yeah, at shortstop. So that's a grand total of 22 games out of this man's career. He's not a shortstop. It's a curiosity.
Here's the problem. Chris Getz, for some reason, loves Andrew Vaughn. He doesn't want to admit that this guy isn't working out. Somewhere in the organization, there is still this strong belief for Andrew Vaughn. You've got him hit in the middle of your order, and he's terrible. He's got lifetime stats to show that he's not very good. You can't tell me there aren't players on the team right now who quietly or amongst themselves, and who knows, maybe vocally to a manager or a coach, aren't saying, why is this guy playing every day and has more at-bats than anybody else on the team in the center of the lineup, and he's no good? Why is he getting opportunities that he hasn't earned? What is going on here? You're going to start to cause a little dissent inside of your locker room. And I don't think your manager wants to bat him there either. I would imagine a rookie manager brought in has been told, that's your third baseman, that's your first baseman, don't move him. Because nobody with any baseball sense would keep these two in there every day. Nobody would. This is going to be a problem. You know, when you try to look for the problems on Major League Baseball teams, the things going on behind the scenes, the things that can start to cause cancer to grow in a locker room, it's stuff like this. Because you're going to get players that play hard, play well, and earn spots who aren't getting what they think they should be getting, and they're human beings. We're all human beings. We go to work every day. A lot of us will sit there in an office or work in a workplace where we may be doing better than some guy over here, but that guy is the boss's friend, or that guy's just been around longer, or that guy's got seniority. And for some reason that means something, even though you're better at what you do and you work harder at what you do. It's the same thing in a baseball team. There's guys out there right now who are looking at Andrew Vaughn and Miguel Vargas and looking at the playing time and looking at Vaughn in the middle of the order going, what are we doing here and why do they love him so much? And that breeds problems. They've got to figure this out. They've got to make a decision at some point on it. I mean, at least drop him down the order. Tim Elko should be up here. James Fox said it on one of the shows, or if not both of them when I was gone. Tim Elko should be up here playing first base. And Miguel Vargas, jettison him into the sun. You made a mistake. Move on.
Yeah, and Miguel Vargas is another guy. He finally hits a home run against the Twins. And in the postgame, he's like, hey, you know, the guys here are really helping me out. They're trying to help my swing and change my swing path and stuff. And it's like, okay, you know, I understand, you know, there's coaching going on, but at the same time, if it's not going to work and it hasn't worked to this point, why do you think it's going to work going forward? And if you're doing this stuff, how much of a leash do you give this guy to swing his way out? With Andrew Vaughn, there's no word, there's no discussion out there about what it is that they're doing to try and make him better. And there's seemingly no opportunity for him to make himself better because he's had so many chances to this point. And you're right, it will start causing dissension, especially when Corey Lee comes off of the IL, okay, or when Austin Slater comes off the IL. And if those guys are getting sparing playing time, and, you know, Corey Lee was hitting .333 when he went on the IL. If he continues to swing the bat well when he is in the lineup, or if everybody has taken to having Edgar Quero on the team and is feeding off of this guy's energy and his leadership, and you're right about him being a leader and how that can be an important thing, if he gets sent down so that Andrew Vaughn can continue to be a problem at first base, I mean, as we're sitting here, he's got 95 plate appearances. He's 2 behind Miguel Vargas, who's got 97, and 1 behind Luis Robert Jr., who's got 96, which tells me that Andrew Vaughn sat out a game or so, and the other 2 guys really haven't. All 3 of those guys are doing terrible. At some point, especially with the young guys, especially in a rebuild, there's going to be someone who sits there, you're right, and says, this is BS. Why the hell am I not getting playing time over these bums? What have they proven? And it may be nothing personal against Andrew Vaughn. It may not be the kind of dissension in the clubhouse where it comes to blows or everybody's against him. but you get disheartened. And we saw what happened last year when this team started to lose faith in Pedro Grifol. We saw what happened when this team got disheartened and got down. It went from bad to absurdly, historically terrible in a heartbeat. And this team is not good enough to have it go down in flames because they don't have good clubhouse morale. And I don't really care if the beat reporters and the guys on the inside tell you that morale is good or that the clubhouse cohesion is there and all that stuff.
It's not there. It can't be there.
It can't possibly be there. It cannot possibly be there.
They told you that when all the rumors about the TA stuff was going on and all the other problems in previous locker rooms. And then after Kenny gets fired and after Rick's out, all of a sudden they were like, oh yeah, there were problems in the locker room. Well, come on. What is it? We don't talk about it until after the season's over? I think it exists. How could it not exist? First off, before we keep going on this, great catch, because I said he'd had more at-bats than anybody else on the team, and you're like, but he's third in plate appearances. And the reason for that is he's only got 4 walks on the season, and that's why he has more official at-bats, even though he has less plate appearances, because Vargas at least has walked 9 times. Robert has walked 13 times. That's how bad Andrew Vaughn is. That's how terrible he is.
Yeah, Andrew Vaughn's got 4 walks to 22 strikeouts. 22 strikeouts. He is leading... He is second on the team. It's him and Lenin Sosa, one behind Miguel Vargas. Okay, so again, we're bringing Vaughn and Vargas in. And at least Lenin Sosa's OPS is 664. He's struggling a bit. He's hitting 265. And we know he's a streaky hitter. And so he just put one out of the park the other day. And I kind of have a feeling Lenin Sosa's going to go on a little bit of a run here. And then he'll suck again a little bit. And then he'll go on a run. But Lenin Sosa is also not a guy that's getting talked about as a stalwart on this team. He's a guy that's fighting for his plate appearances. He's a guy that you get the feeling the management will move on from him in a heartbeat. Going back to the last couple shows where you were gone, James Fox talked about Lenin Sosa and how he's had plenty of chances to show what he is as well. And there might be some future there, but he's a guy that doesn't feel like he's secured anything, even though from a batting average standpoint, he statistically looks like, well, almost the best hitter on the team at this point, if you don't count Edgar Quero's 333 or Chase Mydroth's 269 because they haven't been here the whole season.
You took so much time telling everybody you wanted to change the culture of the team. You changed the manager this year. Your players came in and were excited because it felt different. If you don't have accountability in the locker room, if there's still guys that are playing who don't deserve to be out there, if you get more unrest inside of the locker room, whether they're telling a beat reporter about it or not and talking about it amongst themselves, it will exist. Even the most positive thing about this year, and that really was the only goal, right, Ed? The only goal was to start to build a White Sox way. The only goal was to start to build a clubhouse. The only goal was to start to move in a few pieces and watch them grow so they can be the base for the next stage, for the next build. If you sabotage that for Andrew Vaughn and Miguel Vargas, who won't be on this team in 2026, God, they shouldn't be. They really shouldn't be. Won't be on this team in 2026. What are you doing? That's the problem. I think that's the problem in all sports, but it's really a problem in baseball. You said it earlier, getting Wally pipped. This idea that it's terrible that a guy lost his job because he was injured, because the other guy was better, but that guy would have never gotten a chance if he didn't get injured. All these unwritten old school rules that still exist in baseball. The idea we got to stick with this guy. He's our guy. He's just coming around. He's hitting it really hard. It's just landing in gloves. Yeah, because he hits an outs. That's what he does. Hits an outs. It was a really hard hit right at the center fielder. I play 16-inch softball, and I watch guys who could hit the ball to a certain side of the field and drop it into a hole. Right? They know how to aim the ball. They don't know how the pitcher's going to pitch the ball. They fix their feet as the ball comes in, and they find a way to pop the ball into a certain area. It's a skill. You got a guy who comes up and he's always hitting it hard and it's always landing in their glove. He doesn't have that skill. I'm sorry. So I don't understand it. I'm never going to understand it. I don't think other teams wait so long to make moves, but the White Sox wait forever before they finally admit that a guy's no good and that they have to move on from him. And if you do that, you hurt what you're supposedly trying to build because there's no way your locker room is going to put up with it. The first people to get upset are the fans and idiot podcasters in their basement. But very, very quickly after that, it's the players. who every day are watching what's going on and are like, this guy doesn't deserve this spot. So-and-so does. Okay. You think those guys that came up from AAA don't think Tim Elko should get a shot? They saw him in person.
Yeah. I mean, they're watching guys that they come up with, and they're watching guys work themselves super hard. And then, to see a guy that maybe, again, they might have respect for the guy. They might like the guy personally. They might think that Andrew Vaughn is working really hard or Miguel Vargas is working really hard. But at some point, if a guy is just hitting line drives and hard fly balls at guys, that means he doesn't have enough power. Okay, and I talked about this back when Yoan Moncada was on the team. At some point, Yoan Moncada putting the bat on the ball and always having warning track power, those will be hunted down. Those will be hunted down by competent outfielders. So if that's what Andrew Vaughn has, he has mostly warning track power with the occasional ability to hit one out, then this is what he is. If Miguel Vargas has warning track power, the ability to occasionally hit one out, or if they don't get the ball in the air enough, they hit too many ground balls. And I've seen Andrew Vaughn, I want to say a year or two ago, Andrew Vaughn grounded into like 2 triple plays within a week or something like that. I mean, he might even be, and I think he's still leading the team in barrels, but those metrics mean nothing. Nothing if the balls don't fall in, if you're not a productive hitter. I would rather have Edgar Quero weekly grounding out to first base to knock in a run than have Andrew Vaughn sting the heck out of the ball on the ground to a shortstop and get an inning-ending double play. And we've seen that happen so many times in his career.
So many times. Taking us to the finish line here on Sox in the Basement, the Sox nerd Dave Marin, who puts all those trivia nuggets and tidbits up on the scoreboard at the rate each and every game, and joins us every weekend here on this show to give you even more. Brought to you by the Village of Lamont. Want to experience a downtown with real history, great eats and drinks, and green spaces filled with adventure? Visit the Village of Lamont. Shop, dine, drink, explore. Check out the new Lamont Unlocked podcast and so much more at lamontdowntown.com. Nerd, what do you got for us?
Reporting from Sacramento, I am the Sox nerd. Yes, I'm in California's capital to watch the White Sox play the nickname-only A's in a new venue. Mrs. Nerd and I are here Friday and Saturday as part of a West Coast swing that also took us to San Francisco for 2 Brewers-Giants games. Sacramento marks the 77th venue for the White Sox and their first new one since debuting with an 8-0 win at Globe Life Field in Arlington, Texas on September 17, 2021. Of course, the first venue debut the Sox made was at Chicago's Southside Park in the franchise's and American League's first game in 1901. The Sox' first venue debut on the road was an 11-3 win over the Brewers in the inaugural game at Milwaukee's Lloyd Street grounds on May 3, 1901. Those Brewers lasted 1 year in Milwaukee before departing for St. Louis to become the Browns. The Sox have been successful recently when playing at a park for the first time. Since 2004, the Sox are 13-4 in a stadium debut, never losing back-to-back contests in that time. The last time that happened was when the Sox dropped their premieres at Atlanta's Turner Field in 2002 and Arizona's Chase Field in 2003. The Sox have a chance to win 2 debut games this season as they play at Steinbrenner Field, the Rays' temporary home in Tampa, from July 21 to July 23rd. The last time that happened was in 2021 in Arlington and with the Field of Dreams game in Dyersville, Iowa. Sacramento's Sutter Health Park is the 4th venue the A's will be hosting the Sox at since the American League charter franchises started playing each other 124 years ago. The visiting Sox are 3-1 in stadium debuts versus the A's, splitting in Philly and winning in Kansas City and Oakland. Before I get to my zinger, I remind you that gems like these and long-form pieces are on my blog, which you can link to at soxinthebasement.com. By the way, I'm posting a daily White Sox quick list on my blog, and I'm still updating Sox birthdays on my X account. My zinger, in honor of the 20th anniversary of the World Champions, I'm going to zing frequently about that team, throwing out some gems you may not know about the 2005 Sox. The Sox debuted in 2 venues en route to the title in 2005, and those stadiums were Coors Field in Denver, and Petco Park in San Diego, where they won both times. That's it, guys. More than you probably wanted to know about where the White Sox have played.
Sox in the basement. Sox in the basement. Sox in the basement.
Sox in the Basement. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found, and always on soxinthebasement.com.